Hey, what's up guys, it's Blake, and today I'm going to try to work on converting a couple of barrister cabinets. As you can see, these are like a bookshelf that have these fancy glass doors on them. And we're going to see if we can't convert these for an animal enclosure. Now, specifically, my plan here is to remove this shelf, lock this in place to where I can access the bottom as well as the top of this, which would be the equivalent of 40 gallons, 40 gallons, 40 gallons, 40 gallons. I'm going to try to seal these. I'm going to have to replace the backs. As you can tell, these are a really flimsy, cardboard-esque backing. So I'm going to replace that. I'm going to seal it all, and the goal would be to make these into crested gecko enclosures. So without further ado, let's get started. Alright, so I've ripped this back piece off, and I'm going to replace that with something a little more durable. So I'm going to get kind of creative cutting with this, because if I put this board the long ways to use the entire thing as one, or to make the entire thing one section, one chunk, I'll only have enough to do one with one board. So what I'm going to do is go long ways, and see right here there's like 10 inches of overhang. I'm just going to cut that out of another section or a spare piece I have out back, and seal that and connect that together. I think that'll work perfectly fine. Alright, so now I've got the back cut out. This is one whole section, and then another section I did. That'll completely cover the back though, so I'm going to put that on. Alright, so I've gotten the center shelves out of each one, and I've began putting this backboard onto the back here. So we're going to go ahead and put this one on, and we'll see what that looks like. Alright, so we've got the back on, the center out. Now you can see a few problems here we got to work with. First off, this guy slides all the way in. I don't want that to happen because I don't want to crush anybody in there. So I'm going to go ahead and lock this in place here like that by putting screws through these so it can't go any farther back. And then we will also need to put some sort of base here to hold in substrate in the enclosure. Hey guys, so this is me editing this video, and I didn't realize that I wasn't recording at the time when I discussed cutting styrofoam as the background. That's what we were going to use, and making it fit to each wall as well as the back. So pretend that there's a video here of me doing that, and then we skip to the next step. Alright, so now we're going to caulk all of these in. Got them at the bottom here too. And we'll see how that looks once they're all stationary. Alright, so as you can see, I've got it caulked in. This is what it looks like currently. If I open this up, the top will slide all the way back. If I open this up, it only goes to here. So that's my access to the bottom. This is my access to the top. Now that we have everything caulked in here and good to go, we're going to start making little edges and places for them to sit, just overall aesthetic with more of the foam board. And I'm using these little guys kind of as pins, you can see, and then we'll caulk them in place. But this is just kind of trial fitting right now, and once we get a few of these ledges and whatnot up, we'll see how things are looking. Kind of see how this is coming together. I've got a few sticks of bamboo in here and 2 ledges. And then I've kind of put a little smaller piece under this ledge. I think that'll help make it look more like a stone or a root or something like that later down the road. So yeah, just get creative in here and start placing pieces where you think they'd look good. This is a rough structure. It will look significantly different later, but this is definitely what we want to be doing for now. You can see that I've pulled the top and the bottom with a straight razor, and you can kind of get the texture to it a little bit better. So this is what I've gotten here, and we are now going to use a different foam. I recommend some form of gaps and cracks. That'll work really well for getting this texture in there. It's also really easy to use, but keep in mind it does expand. This particular one I have expands up to 1 inch, so definitely watch out for that. We're going to take a little bit of this foam, Like this. We're kind of just building this up to give this more of a textured look. So I've got some spray foam in here, I've got some spray foam up in here, and I got a little bit on the glass. I'm going to have to use a razor blade to get that off. But now we're going to let this sit, and we will come back after it's dried in a few hours. Alright, so they are all dry now. And we are going to use some dry lock to seal all of that in before we paint anything. Okay, so you can see I'm getting a coat on this. Top half is done, bottom half is not yet. And it's looking pretty good so far. Alright, so here is what it looks like before we put dry lock on. And here is the final seal, or first coat with dry lock. Alright, so now we're officially ready to paint these. We're going to try to make these look like vines, try to make it look like some sort of jungle background. I'm really excited to see how these turn out, so stay tuned. Something extremely important to remember about painting a reptile terrarium is that you absolutely need paint that is non-toxic. So just keep that in mind when you're shopping around. You can find non-toxic paints just about everywhere. Obviously kids use paint a lot, so you can find it in craft sections, and those are non-toxic a lot of the times, but make sure you're finding something that is non-toxic. So fast forward a bit, I'm using Elmer's glue because it's non-toxic and safe for these little guys, and just kind of sticking sphagnum moss to the wall, hoping that it dries. I did this on the previous one without recording and it came out pretty good. At this point, I didn't tell any of you, but you can see I added some little mushrooms that I found off Temu. They're on like these little wires that I shoved into the styrofoam and they'll stay in place. Alright, and I've got these 1x2s that I've cut to size to fit the bottom here. I'm going to go ahead and cut out the foam behind here, and I'll show you what it looks like once it's placed in. Okay, so it should look something like this now. I'm going to do the same thing to the bottom. Alright, so now we're going to take some cocoa fiber. This is just regular old cocoa fiber, and fill the bottoms. I've already done the top one here, and this is pretty much going to be our finished product. Alright, so this is what it's essentially going to look like, guys. We're going to do something probably about lighting, and we're going to do something about this gap here, see? And then we're also going to do something about airflow. So for the gap, what I used is Duck brand weather strip. This is 3/8 wide by 1/4 inch thick by 17 inches long. And that worked pretty well. You can see that it's definitely enough that they aren't going to get out, but it's also going to provide some airflow out the front. Alright, so if you've noticed by now, I'm wearing a hoodie. The reptile building is still 68 degrees, but it is not outside. It is winter in northern Michigan, and I started this project late this summer of 2024. So without further ado, I realized that I never showed anyone what to do about ventilation after I fully set up the stinking enclosure. So we've got a 5/8 paddle bit, and we're going to start by boring a hole through the top, and we'll go from there. So I have cut out our 5/8 inch hole, and we're going to use that as a guide to saw out the rest of it. Safety first, and always use the right tool for the job. With that being said, I did not, and we will pay the consequence of having this huge gash. But we do have a hole. Alright, so now what we want is some wire mesh. I have tough screen pet resistant mesh. It is wire mesh. I found mine at work, but you can probably find it at a local hardware store. Alright, so I've cut out our appropriate square of screen, and I'm going to staple it inside of the reptile enclosure. Keep in mind, guys, I am no YouTuber. I don't do things perfectly. I am just a guy that posts videos on YouTube. Alright, guys, so now what we have is the section for this. Ignore that. And I have a mini UVA UVB halogen lamp 3.0 in there. Guarantee it's probably not quite what it is, but it will work for a day-night cycle. This is a crested gecko, so as far as temperatures, room temperature in here is honestly going to be fine. It'll be ideal for a crested gecko, but this will help with their crepuscular cycle. So at this point in time, we can add Patrick in. He's in the middle of shed. You'll have to excuse that. And this is our finished product. So the question now is probably, how the heck are we going to light the bottom? Well, I guess you could do it through the side or something. Honestly, I haven't gotten that far, but I'm going to post this video anyways. So thanks for watching. I appreciate you all. And stick around, and I'll see you in the next one.